Hello, everyone. Diana Rankin here with a message from Phillip for all of us to answer one of your questions. And where I am, it is a Friday afternoon, and we've got some thunderstorms coming in. So it has warmed up. The last few days have been quite cold, but it's a little warmer today, but we're expecting thunderstorms. So hopefully they're not going to come till we get finished here so we can not have an interruption. Our question this week is a little bit dark. It's from one of the viewers, and I thank these viewers for sending these questions in. Please send your questions. You can put them in the comments below. And speaking of comments, thank you for the comments that you do make, whether it's a question or not. And thank you for the thumbs up. I really appreciate those. And one of you had to remind me to say that last week, and I appreciate that. Those of you who are able to come on live, I'm always glad to see you. And those of you who aren't, again, your comments are really appreciated. But this is a question from the viewer, and I ask you to keep the questions general rather than personal. We just want to make sure that they have some interest to all of our viewers. If you want to make a personal, if you want to have personal questions, let's set up a session for you. Just give me a call. My number's right below, and we'll get a session set up for you. We will also get a message from one of my books, The Master's Book of Answers by Phillip. Hello, Vivian. Good to see you today. And I want to also, and this is just an oracle book, so we just open to any page, and every page has a different wisdom on it. So we'll get our message from Phillip also. This is the 50th week of 2021. Can you believe that? The 50th week already? So it's December 12th to the 17th. I have to look over the calendar here. Want to also tell you, I do have a newsletter. It's free. And so if you're interested in that, just again, go to the website and you can just sign up. I think you just scroll down and there's a place to sign up for that. So let's get going here. Here's our question. Would Phillip please speak about those in spirit world who would harm us? Who are they, and why would they want to harm us? Well, here's Phillip's answer, and it might surprise you. Just as there are those in human form who harm others, being in spirit form does not change this. So just as there are those in human form who harm others, being in spirit form does not change this. The soul's journey is one of experience. One may begin as an innocent who, during the progression of life experiences, chooses to experience evil. This may be the one who commits acts of evil or one who combats evil. Let us use as an example a man most humans would agree committed many acts of evil during a life cycle on Earth. You know this soul by the name of Hitler. Hitler was the cause of harm to many in Earth. Do you believe this need to harm others suddenly disappears when one moves into spirit world? Of course not. The soul is on an evolutionary journey and will go through multiple life-death cycles while evolving to where harming another is no longer desired. To understand what we are saying, those who hear these words must remember the life-death cycle. There is not one earth life lived where the human then goes off forever in a state of heaven or hell. Spirit world is a continuation of earth life, but lived in the spirit form rather than third dimension human body form. The ones who move into spirit world bring with them their human traits. This is also true of those in animal form. If a human takes an animal's life while in earth, the human will again face that animal in spirit world. If met in fear, fear will rule between them until forgiveness is reached by the animal and the human. Both the hunter and the hunted must forgive each other and forgive themselves. So both the hunter and the hunted. You have to forgive yourself as well as each other. The same is true for all forms of earth life, including human. Until forgiveness is reached for one's thoughts and deeds, the life-death cycle will continue. I want to repeat that. Until forgiveness is reached for one's thoughts and deeds, the life-death cycle will continue. Now let us assume one human forgives the other, but the other is not accepting of the forgiveness. Does this matter? No. We must remind you that everyone, everything is one in spirit, and the one is capitalized. We must remind you that everyone, everything is one in spirit. This understood allows us to then understand that as we forgive ourselves, we forgive all others. Once a human enters this state of understanding, they no longer are vulnerable to harmful energies from spirit world. This is because they understand now the evolutionary journey and that the experiences are ones they created. In other words, if we understand the evolutionary journey, we understand that we are creating our own experiences. Until this evolutionary level is reached, the human is vulnerable to energies in the form of just thoughts or forms of entities interfering with their human life. The range of interference is wide. The interference can come in the form of thoughts being deliberately sent to a vulnerable individual, to an entity inhabiting an individual's body, and everything in between. Yikes. Who are these entities that would harm? The question asked. They are simply thought forms that have bonded together. Whether bonding while in human body or while in spirit form makes no difference. You are all the energy of thought forms bonded together, evolving through the life-death cycle. If your thoughts are of anger and fear, you will attract light thought forms, whether in human form or spirit form. If your thoughts are of loving kindness, you will attract light thought forms, whether in human form or spirit form. Because most humans are unaware of energy and also unaware of their thought form, their thought forms power. Because most humans are unaware of energy and also unaware of their thought forms power. In other words, our thought forms, and that's power. Sometimes the syntax that Phillip uses, and it's a little rough, different, not rough, different, thank you. Because most humans are unaware of energy and also unaware of their thought forms power. And that forms has an apostrophe S, if that helps. Their thought forms power. We always suggest it is wise to say a prayer of protection and always asking to be in loving energy when working within the deeper energies. For example, when contacting someone in spirit world, your prayer may be only that which is of love may come to me. Or you may ask your angels to be with you or a protective guide. Humans, whether in earth form or in spirit world, are powerful energy forces. Once in spirit form, there may be a desire to play with available ones still in human form, rather than grow in understanding and love in their current form in spirit world. All that must be remembered and known is that one is vulnerable only if the human continues to live in fear and anger as the primary state. Those who live in love, with visits to the energy of fear and anger, are not so vulnerable. Those who always live in love are not vulnerable at all. It is simply to remember that all is energy. What energy are you drawing to you with your thought forms? We suggest you practice love. So I'm going to reread that last part. All that must be remembered and known is that one is vulnerable only if the human continues to live in fear and anger as the primary state. Those who live in love, with visits to the energy of fear and anger, are not so vulnerable. Those who always live in love are not vulnerable at all. It is simple. It is simply to remember that all is energy. What energy are you drawing to you with your thought forms? We suggest you practice love. Well, hello there, Wendy. She says, woohoo, woohoo. I made it live. So glad to see you, Wendy. And Johanna, hello, hello, hello. And Juliet, she says, this is fascinating. Thank you. Thank you all. I'm so glad to see you. It's always exciting to me to see those of you who come on live and make comments. That's cool. I love it. All right, we're going to get a message from the Master's Book of Answers by Phillip. And I just want to put in another word about the newsletter. There's no charge. Please sign up for it. Just go to the website and sign up. And the newsletter goes out. I try to get it out every Friday morning about 8:30 or so. And this week it was about how I think there are like 25 celebrations and religious rites this month of December. It's really quite a month. If you haven't listened to the monthly predictions by Phillip, please go do that. It's going to get better. It's just been a tough month right now. So anyway, this week's article it went out this morning, but go ahead and please sign up for it. Okay, let's get our message. As you know, we just go to a page, finger stops, thumb stops, whatever. I'm hearing right is a little bit stronger than left. I'm getting a mix here, though. That's interesting when that happens to me. But right is the message for all of us. And then if you heard left, if that came through strongly, that means that that's a message for you. So be sure and listen. If you heard right, that means that we're here in sync. Hello, Mike. So good to hear you. Mike says Ouija boards. I'm looking at the bigger screen over here because it's easier for me to read than the small screen of the computer itself. And Mike says Ouija boards were very popular parlor games. I wonder what effect they had on the vulnerable. You know, Ouija boards were very popular at one time, even when I was growing up. And we stopped using them. And of course, when I was growing up, I wasn't allowed anywhere near a Ouija board. In fact, I'm not forgetting this. I've got my thumb there. But when I was barely old enough to walk. So what was that? 2.5, 3 years old. And I was at my grandfather's funeral. And my mother was holding one hand. And my grandmother, I know, was standing there. My mother's mother. And this was my father's father who had died. And I really didn't get to know my father till I was much older, but the family was together until I was around 2.5, 3 years old. And then the family split up. Another story. But anyway, I remember standing there talking to my grandfather and my father's father, who was in his casket. And that upset my family so much when my mother asked me who I was talking to. And I said that I was talking to my grandfather, and my mother and my grandmother rushed me over to the casket and said, that's impossible. He's in heaven now with Jesus. We were raised very Christian. It's not what I believe these days, but that's a whole different story. But I tell you this because of Mike talking about the Ouija board. Some of us were very, very vulnerable to that. But for me, it was always say a prayer. Even when I do a private reading with any of you, I always say a prayer and have you say a prayer to your divine source before we get started. I just believe that have always believed that was a good thing to do. But yes, I'm sure, Mike, that there were many people, especially children, who had some experiences that probably weren't good for them with the Ouija board, because it did open this energy. And you know, it's when I teach intuition, one of the things that's so important to me is to teach protection. So always, and again, Philip just says it can be a simple prayer. Only that which is of love can come to me. And if we live in love and only occasionally visit those moments of anger or fear, and believe me, I do. I visit them. I don't live in love 24/7. Unfortunately, I wish I could, but I don't. I'm human. And when we're not as vulnerable as those who live in anger. Right now, there's a lot of anger in the world, and especially here in the US. It's really, really rough, and a lot of fear. So those of us who can add love, let's do that. All right. If you heard right, here's your message. Darkness is merely a lack of light. Darkness is merely a lack of light. So think light, think love. And a simple prayer before you go to sleep is just to see that divine light coming down and filling your whole body. Or again, to say, let my dreams be full of love. Let my life be full of love. Anything like that. Love is always more powerful than fear or hate. Don't go to sleep in fear or hate. Don't go to sleep worried. Go to sleep in peace. You can take care of it the next day. So remember, darkness is merely a lack of light. If you heard left, is it that you are so busy becoming that you forget you already are? Is it that you are so busy becoming that you forget you already are? Are you working too hard, my friend? Hello, Michelle. Kia ora, Diana. May you have a super blessed week full of love and kindness, Michelle tells us. Kia ora. I'm not sure what that means, but I'm guessing it's a beautiful, beautiful saying, and forgive me if I'm not saying it correctly. So, my friends, remember, darkness is merely a lack of light. And I think this was our message recently, maybe even as early as just a week ago. Darkness is merely a lack of light. Well, my friends, sign up for the newsletter and I'll see you there. If you haven't already, do go listen to the December monthly predictions because there's some stuff there you need to hear. Get those questions off to me. Thank you so much for coming on live and your comments. It's so good to see you. You guys support me. You really do. I couldn't do this without you. It's not that easy for me, even with all these years. And Michelle tells us it means hello in, I wanted to say Hawaiian, but it's, when I saw it, Kia ora, I wanted to say Hawaiian, but it's Marari. I can't say it. Maori. It's not going to come out right. So forgive me, Michelle. Forgive me. I can hear it. I can feel it. My tongue isn't going to wrap around. So please forgive me. But I love the Kia ora, and I hope I'm saying that correctly. To all of you, thank you so much for being here. I love you. This is a month that a lot is taking place. Stay in love as much as you can. That's not to say we don't get angry. And that's not to say love doesn't have boundaries. Certainly we hold others to boundaries. Love is an action verb. And so it starts with ourselves. Love yourself. Love yourself enough to take care of yourself. Until we meet again. I love you, my friends. Thank you for loving me and receiving me. And Michelle says, the Indigenous people of New Zealand. Thank you. The Indigenous people of New Zealand. And it is Maori. And I can hear it. It's not working on my tongue. I've always had trouble with foreign languages or languages that I didn't grow up with, even way back in my high school years when I had to study French. I could not, it just wouldn't work for me. So Michelle, thank you. And I know you all know what the word is, who the people are. Beautiful people, by the way, I understand. I haven't been to New Zealand. I may have to do that one of these days. Thank you, my friend. Be the light that you wish to see in the world. Be the light.